Hi, welcome back to Sodor Wet Wharf, where we're going to be creating our first bridge. This is the metal bridge, as you can see on screen here. So let's see how we did it. So we have our graph paper with our basic bridge design, as you can see here. It's going to be 12 centimeters across because that's the gap, the width of the canal that we need to span. And as you can see, with a bit of an overlap on each side, so there's a couple of centimeters at each side, just so that will be supported by the baseboards on either side. Also, you can see we have some design on the bridge. It's not just a straight bridge, so there's these four strips straight down as well. We've got some designing around the edges, so we're going to have to cut this out of balsa wood. Sorry. So in order to do this, we're going to copy our design onto a sheet of paper and then attach that onto a piece of balsa wood and cut out a few sections in order to make our bridge, as you can see here. So creating our bridge, we have 3 sections of balsa wood for each side of our bridge. The reason we need 3 sections is so that it will look like this in the end, our final bridge. In order to do this, we need 1 section for the middle, for the main support, and then for the detail work around the edges, we're going to use one of the strips for each side just to get the exact same angles. So in order to do that, we're going to make sure we sand all 3 pieces when held tightly together and get those along with the strips of wood that go across the bottom and the metal plate that we use to bridge the gap, and then we can assemble that. So we now have our little supports. These are gonna support the actual track bed and hold these on the side. So the next job is to cut out the excess material from 4 of these and to sand them. So we're going to get some general purpose sanding paper, and I'm just going to lay this down and just get these all equal. We just need to be really careful that when we're holding these together that they don't kind of come undone and kind of get moved. So keeping an eye on where they all are together. There needs to be a little bit of movement because the critical part is this bit here where it's going to be resting on the boards. So we need to make sure that they're all correct height wise. So we're just going to sand that and then see how we get on. So after a little bit of sanding, these are now all smooth and all equal. Now they're not 100% perfect because I want to cut out the cutouts, glue them together, and then give them a final once over. But they're much better than they were initially, with some of them being a little bit larger than the others. So now is the point to make the holes. So we need a very narrow strips around the sides of the bridge. And I was just going to cut out the middle bits, but I don't think that's really going to be possible to get the straight lines, and it'd be much better to get some straight strips for the bottom. So I'm just cutting out the top from 4 of these and then using the rest of the wood. We're going to then attach this. Sorry, the camera angle's a bit terrible, but you can see how we're going to build this up at each side. Glue on the wood at the bottom to hold that in place. And then we're just going to slowly build this up with the different pieces of balsa in order to get this to be together. We now assemble our different parts. We've got our 6mm pine across the bottom. The outside edge has been done and a small strip across the bottom. Now, in order to do the 4 side supports, we need to wait till we have everything else in place, and then we just measure it and mark with our knife where we need to cut and add them all to the sides of the bridge, and then we should end up with something that looks like what we have here. Now I've managed to do the other side. As you can see, all the strips are there, and the second part of the bridge is here also. So the detail is quite fine. The strips are like 1mm as far as possible. I've done slightly less. We have our metal sheet In order to bend the metal sheet, I just used a craft knife and a ruler and just used the knife to score it. It just then bent perfectly smoothly and a nice straight line. So there's our bridge. We then did a test fit. I hadn't done the other baseboard at this point, but it did fit. I did measure it. We then added paint. Now, I didn't really have a very good colour, so I started off with a lighter paint and then a slightly darker paint, but I still wasn't happy with it. However, I did also realise that the bridge isn't quite as round as I needed it to be, so I will do it again later. But for now, this is our bridge spanning the Wharf's Canal. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Goodbye.